And we're live. Hello, everybody from wherever you are joining us in the world. Yeah, welcome to a live podcast recording streaming session that I'm doing here on the Better UX YouTube channel. So if you're new here, welcome, and I hope that you enjoy the session and what we have packed for you. Today we're going to be talking about personal branding as a tool, as something that I think every person out there, not just UX designers, not just user experience designers, product designers, UI designers, or whatever it is, which is what we mainly talk about on this channel, but I think most of the things that we're going to be talking about in this session are going to be very interchangeable across different careers and things like that. And if you want to listen to a more clean version of the podcast recording, remember this is just a live podcast recording. The cool part about it is that you can actually be part of the podcast. So if you're watching this in the future, look out for other live podcast recordings like this, and then you can have the opportunity to ask your questions live on the podcast, whether you are just asking in the chat section on YouTube, or if you're part of our community, whether on LinkedIn or Discord. My voice is a little bit scratchy today. I'm not sure why. I hope that it gets better as we go. So yeah, welcome to the stream, and yeah, if you're just joining us, let us know in the chat section where you're joining me from. And it's always interesting to know where people are joining from, and kind of the different demographics of where this content actually reaches, and how I can reach more people out there, because that is really my goal with this channel and with the podcast, is to try and help people like you navigate your careers and really get interest from really get insights from other people across the world. So yeah, feel free to let me know where you're watching this from, whether you're watching the replay, put replay in the chat, and yeah, I'm interested to know who's joining us live, who's watching us in the replay. Cool. So super excited to talk about this one. It's something that I think I've spoke about quite a bit on the channel when we talk about do UX designers actually need a portfolio in 2020? I think that was 2020 or 2021, one of the two. But yeah, it's something that that is really close to my heart, and I feel like a lot of people out there need to consider how they not only create your CVs and your sort of like your LinkedIn profile and things like that, but recruiters these days are part of these networks that we are on, and things like that. So yeah, let's get into the podcast recording, start actually getting into the conversation that we're here for. So I'm gonna just do one quick check on our socials, see what's happening there. I'm gonna check out the LinkedIn group, see what's happening in there. I've let everybody know that we are live. Let me just put in a link on the group there. Okay, cool. So there we go. We're live, and you can also join our Discord server. It's a place that we're still setting up. So if you are joining us, you'll probably just see an empty canvas. But the idea about our Discord server is that we really want to be able to do more online closed group coaching calls, do different sessions that can really help people within this community grow their careers and help them navigate their careers to get to a better place. So that's the purpose of the Discord server. It's really for us to get to know each other personally, as the people within this community, do sort of like meet up type of conversations, let other people contribute to the conversation as well, so that you don't just hear me talking a lot of stuff all the time. So yeah, I think that's super important as well. So if you're watching this, the links are in the description for everything that we're going to be talking about and referencing to, I think most of it is directly in the conversations that we have in the community. You can join our community over on LinkedIn and Discord. Obviously, there's different conversations and different type of things that you can do on those two platforms. That's purpose built for engaging with the communities there. So super excited to get into this one. Again, let me start doing the actual recording. Drink some water before I jump into it. I don't know if I'm coming up with something or whatever it is, but yeah, let me just hit the record button and let's jump into this. Again, if you want to listen to the podcast episode on the podcast platforms, it will sound differently and a little bit more short and succinct. So yeah, feel free to check out Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Wave, whatever they call it. Wherever you listen to your podcast on, we should be fairly available there. So let's jump into today's conversation. So when we think about a brand, we think of big organizations and companies like Nike, Starbucks, or even Tesla and Starlink and things like that, right? But people have brands too. If you think about it, there are conversations that you've had with people, people that you've touched their lives, whether you are working with them, whether you just have a reputation of being a good person or have a reputation of, being reliable or being on time or whatever it is. So everybody does have a sort of like reputation which grows into what people remember them as. So we have things that we represent, do, love, communities that we belong to, and things that we want to lead in. And frankly, we want to leave an impact with our name on people's lives that we touch. So having said that, I think your personal brand is something that you really carry across throughout your life, and I think is something super important. And some of the concepts that we'll be talking about in this podcast are not necessarily all based on UX design careers, UI designer, product lead, or whatever role you might play. I think there are actually quite broad concepts that you can apply in any other career path that you might be following at the current moment that you are in. So if you're looking into getting into UX design and you're not a UX designer, you're just listening in, I think there is a lot that you can still get from the concepts that we will be discussing in this podcast. So stay tuned. So before we jump into today's show and actually get into the nitty-gritty of our conversation around today, around personal design, product design, or personal branding, I wanted to invite you that if you are interested in, if you're whether getting into UX design, or if you are interested in taking your career to the next level, this platform that we have here, dobetterux.com, maybe we're going to turn it into an academy very soon once we get other members and team players, that managers that help us manage to get content out there to you, much richer content out there to you. Feel free to join our community at the moment, mainly on LinkedIn, and Discord is something that we are still setting up, but we are super excited to start getting people engaging with us there. If you are interested in having conversations around UX design, UI design, product design, product delivery, and sort of the whole digital space. We have conversations here on the podcast with people and experts around the world that share their ideas and how they navigate their careers currently. And yeah, that way you can, actually learn from real world experiences of these individuals, of some of the information that I share personally here as a UX designer, product designer who started from a graphic design background, worked my way through web design and UX design and product design, and now I am a product design consultant helping digital companies around the world deliver their products at speed. So that is what I specialize in. So yeah, check out my other personal links as well if you might want to do business with me, or maybe just get advice. I am very open to chatting with people on different platforms, mainly LinkedIn. I am also on Twitter, but if you just look up Farima Henry, then yeah, you should be able to get to me. So welcome to Not a UX Designer, a podcast where we explore career topics in the UX, UI, product design, and delivery space. My goal here is to help you navigate your career by learning from trends and experiences from other designers from all around the world. Let's get to the conversation today, where we will be talking about branding yourself as a product designer and what are some of the things that are important there. So maybe let's start by just talking about what is a personal brand, right? So what is your personal brand? What is it that defines a brand, right? So I've mentioned earlier on, if you're watching this on YouTube, the live recording, is that I think whether you are a freelance person, whether you are in a contract position or a full-time job, I think it's super important that, I think your personal brand is a super important component of how you will be able to get that next big thing that you want to get. And I think it has become sort of like past just your LinkedIn profile or your CV that recruiters are looking for out there, or people who are hiring managers or whatever it is that you might want to work with. So I think it's super important for us to understand that for you to be able to stand out, you really need to look after your personal brand. But what is it? What is your personal brand? Well, for me, I think your personal brand is really how what is your personality, what are your unique skills, values, and as a designer, how do you put all of that together and put it out there to work towards the picture that you want people to perceive you as. Obviously, there is a deep root in authenticity. That word has been there's a deep root in authenticity and just being yourself, right? As well as showcasing your skills and expertise. So I think that is super important for you to be able to demonstrate those things, right? But your personal brand is really how you want the world to perceive you and how you want to project yourself into the world, right? And I think why that is important is that people are not just hiring for your skills. So they're not just, looking for you to be posting, what is it that you do, but they also hire you because of culture fit, because of, the person that you are, right? Maybe they're looking for a more diverse team, and you might be that player that is super diverse that they might actually be looking for their team. So I think that's super important for us to understand that even if you are a UX designer or somebody who is getting into UX design or whatever it is, you should be able to apply your personality. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your personal brand, right? So you should be able to apply your personality to your professional skill set, right? So your personal brand is, I think it's super crucial to demonstrate your authenticity and what the value it is that you bring to people, right? That is what really people are looking at when they're looking to hire people, right? So demonstrate what your value is as a designer, as a product designer, as a UX designer, and that can come in many different forms and methods and ways that you can have, right? And yeah, um, this is how you let other people see you, other, sort of like recruiters see you. Other people want to learn from you as well. I am so much into the culture of, not only creating content for attracting employers and clients, but also being able to take content out there that helps other people benefit as well. And yeah, I am saying content. You are going to have to create some form of content if you want to survive in the world today. Your portfolio and whatever, sort of like profile that you have online is just not going to be enough if you want to build a personal brand based on this digital career that we're talking about here, right? So as a UX designer, product designer, whichever domain you fall into, you need to develop a personal brand in the direction that you are going in, right? So if you want to be known more as a workshopping type of person, you want to create more, whether, you don't have to be an expert at things for you to be able to share stuff out there. You can just share your learning journey with other people, ask questions, and let other people that are in the field contribute to that knowledge that you're trying to get. And I think that is super important because it doesn't only show the people that are out there that you are dedicated to your learning and you really just want to get into it, but also it helps you identify, it helps other people learn as you are learning as well, right? So I think that is super important, right? So yeah, your personal brand is your primary marketing source for getting people to know you in the digital world that we're living in today, right? If you think about your LinkedIn profile, if you think about your Twitter profile, whatever it is, you just don't get new connections or new people to interact with you if you don't actually engage and go through, interact with these different platforms in the way and direction that you want people to drive, in the way that you want to drive people to you and get the responses that you need from your efforts. So maybe let's talk about how do you brand yourself and you put yourself out there. So in this day and age, everything is digital and you need to be on the platforms where your clients are. So you need to be able to do the research around where are those clients and where are the people that really matter to you are. For me, I think my mission is to really help other people out there grow their careers, shape their careers. I learn a lot of things that I serve my clients with, but I feel like the world needs a little bit more of me. So how do I multiply myself? I can, share the knowledge that I have with other people out there and let them be part of what I offer in the world, right? So that is sort of like my personal brand, and this is why I have built this platform, whether it's Do Better UX or the podcast Not a UX Designer, or our community over at dobetterux.com, right? So that is what my drive is, that is what my purpose is, and that is how I get myself out there as an individual, as a leader in the space that I work in, etc., etc. And look, there's going to be a lot of imposter syndrome, like what qualifies you to be sharing, you know, out the things that you do. And that's why I said earlier on, it doesn't have to always be expert knowledge or expert information that you're putting out there. It can just be your learning cycle or your learning plan that you are going through at that specific time, right? So let's get into some practical ways of how do you brand yourself and put yourself out there. So first of all, I think setting up professional profiles across the platforms of interest, um, you know, be professional and also be consistent, right? You want to have the same messaging wherever people interact with you on the web. You want to have a professional photo. You want to have a professional header, a simple and succinct headline on letting people know who you are, what is it that you do, and why should they care, right? Those are important things that you should be having in your profile, whether you choose to drive your personal brand via Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is. My personal choice is LinkedIn. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn that has not been tapped into. And yeah, that's where I want to drive more of this brand. Of course, I don't host most of the content that I do on LinkedIn. But yeah, that is my main driver channel where I want to do this. And I'm also growing a community over on Discord, which is going to help not only me, but that community that we're building there to be able to share stories and share different things and learn from different people within this community and taking different career paths on how to navigate that so that other people can learn from other people's mistakes, which I think is a very important thing that I have been privileged to take advantage of, right? I learn everything that I do from other people out there in the world. And yeah, I just try not to repeat other people's mistakes. And I think that is an important part of our community, right? Cool. So getting setting up your profiles across the platforms that you think that your customers are at, and really be professional and consistent throughout them. I think that is what important. So I think that's step number one. Step number two is now engaging and really living in those platforms, being part of the what you call it, being part of the actual economy and community that you're living in. That is something that you need to contribute to, whether you are just commenting, actually posting, but you really need to, keep on engaging so that people can actually see you on the internet. And don't be afraid to show your face, whether it's a video, whether it's just a picture or whatever it is. Make it nice, pretty, cool, slick. Keep to your brand colors, text, and other things that you've used to brand throughout your personal profiles, whether it's your portfolio on Dribble or Behance, whether it's your personal website or whatever it is. We'll get into that in a second. But just try and keep something that is consistent so that when people see those colors, when people see that text, even if you're not in the image, they know who it is that they're looking at, right? Where that content is coming from. So that is super important as well. So other than that, other than posting, commenting, and sort of, engaging people in groups and, really showing your expertise and thinking, because sometimes it's just that conversation of, what is the perspective of your thinking on that specific blog post or whatever it is, right? that helps people shape the picture of how you think and how you process information and tasks and problems. That can actually help people, understand how you work. Myself, as somebody who always works remote, this is super important to me so that people understand how my world functions and how I think, so that when they see me out there on the internet, they have a good interpretation of how I would react in the real world, right? So yeah, that is something that's beneficial to me as a remote worker. But it might not be so much to you if you actually have to meet people in the real world. Again, if you're interested about remote work, please let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what is the most difficult part about your personal branding journey that you have experienced so far. Is it creating content? Is it defining what your brand looks like? Is it designing stuff? Is it just engaging with people? I've had a lot of, challenges with just, keeping the engagement going online and consistently creating content. So yeah, I have my flaws too. But yeah, let me know what your struggle is in the comments below, as well as, what are the challenges that you have in your personal branding journey. Cool. So other than those things and showing your expertise, I think another way that you can really grow your brand and put your brand out there is, taking part in community activities, whether you are acting more of a lead expert and offering your expertise in that community, or whether you are a speaker at a meetup or a presenter, whichever way you want to look at it, but really being able to contribute in the communities that you are in. That way, you will not only get the interest of potential hires, but also you get to position yourself as somebody who's got value to give into that market. Remember, your whole personal brand is based on authenticity and giving people value. Those are the two things that I feel that they are the most important things for you to be able to navigate around, get right, and make sure that you put the brand, the personal brand that you want to put out there in the world. And lastly, we're going to talk about the website part, right? I have a personal website. A lot of people have got personal websites. They use them, especially if you're a UX designer, UI designer, product designer, someone working in that field. You probably use your personal website as a portfolio, right? Myself, I don't have the privilege to showcase most of the work that I work on because they are big clients with confidentiality curtains behind them. So my website really just states what it is that I do, what is it that I offer the world, and give you links to other things that I do, like the podcasting, the web streaming, etc., etc. That is what helps me shape my expertise and position myself on the internet. And I'm not saying, go out and create a podcast or start streaming or creating YouTube content for you to be able to position yourself as an expert, right, on the internet. But that could certainly help, right? Other than that being a big positive thing to help, you can actually just, as I said, comment, post, engage people in groups, showing your expertise and thinking. That's also something that is pretty good enough for you to be able to show people what is the value that you're bringing. Taking part in community websites and builds and things like that, that is even better, right? So yeah. If you're just joining us on any of the platforms, feel free to say hello and let us know where you're joining us from. We are doing a live podcast recording talking about your personal brand as a UX designer out there. Cool. So going back to the website conversation, I think not everybody needs a website, right? There are some people who need a website. I don't think that if you are getting your what you call it, ROI, return on investment, right? Like if you're not getting your return on investment on hosting that website, you might not even need that website, right? You could just use like a link tree or something like that to host all the, profiles that you have, whether it's your portfolio on Behance, your profile on LinkedIn, which acts more like your CV or whatever it is, and just give people the important things that they need. You can do it that way. Or if you wanna position something that is a little bit more in your control, something that is a little bit more professional, something that you can design and build and apply your brand markers and colors and fonts to, then definitely go the website route. But I see a lot of people who say, oh, I don't have a website, do I need to build a personal portfolio, etc., etc. I think it's totally acceptable going with something like a Behance, and then being able to grow that into other links, have a link tree, etc., etc. And then eventually, if you feel like there is a return on your investment, then make the investment on creating, a personal website. These days it's pretty cheap. You can, do a WordPress one, you can do a Wix website, whichever way. Yeah, it can really turn out to be really cheap, getting a domain name and setting up your own website where you showcase what your brand represents in the world. Remember, when you're building a website, it doesn't have to be a portfolio because you are a product designer, UI designer. Okay, maybe if you're a UI designer, you might need to add some of the work that you do, but it doesn't have to be hosted there on your website. It could be elsewhere, right? So cool. So we spoke about what the personal brand is, how to take yourself out there and engage with the people, etc., etc., the communities that you're really interested in. Closing off, we want to talk about being mindful, intentional, and being authentic, right? So I think you need to be mindful of what is it that you're putting out there in the world, and not just let the different trends and things that people have out there drive the content and what you're putting out there. Remember, be authentic to yourself, be authentic to where you're going, and how you want to drive your brand into the next chapter, right? So are you a graphic designer who's getting into UX design? Share your journey, share your thoughts, share your interests, and talk to other people, learn from other people along that way, and document that, right? I think it's super important for us to be able to put out that vulnerable content out there that let us show that we are willing to learn from other people. I think that is super important, right? Be intentional about what you put out there. Just don't follow trends. Just don't, have feelings and things like that. Have a content strategy. Have a content plan. What is the message that you want to tell people this month, next month, 6 months from now, right? Where is your career going? Think about it, aligned to your career progression. Where do you want your career to go, and how do you, engage on the different platforms, and where your customers are, where people within that specific skill set and profession are, etc., etc. You really need to think about where the trajectory of your career is going, and then apply that there, right? So I think that's super important as well. So feel free to really be yourself. I think that is one thing that I cannot stress enough. about being authentic, because again, as I've said earlier on, people hire you not only because of your skill set, but because of culture fit, the person that you are. Remember, this is your personal brand, it's your personality. So you want to put your personality first before your actual skill set. But I think putting those things together and, fusing them together to something that makes more sense is something that you really want to do. And that is how you navigate building your personal brand. Let me know if you have any other questions out there. Check out the links in the description wherever you're listening this on, and if you're watching this on YouTube, the links, where the links are in the description. So thank you for listening to this episode of Not a UX Designer. If you enjoyed this, please do consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening from so that you don't miss out on new episodes. Share this with someone in a community where you are, that you think that people might benefit from this. If you're interested in more content like this, join our community over on LinkedIn and Discord. You can find all the links on our website, dobetterux.com. And on our website, you can find more things that we're doing, live events, things that are coming up in our community, especially on Discord. We have a good lineup of, these sort of background type of behind the scenes conversations and recordings and things like that. We're also planning to do a lot of coaching sessions, group coaching sessions. Most of them will be free until we get to a point where we feel that maybe the community is big enough and there might be a need for us to start charging for those. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the podcast, and until the next one, catch you on the socials. My name is Farama Henry, and I'm out. Okay, cool. So yeah, that was the podcast recording for today. Thank you so much for joining us over on YouTube. If you are joining us on our social media, LinkedIn and Discord, feel free to ask any questions that you would like us to tackle in future conversations and recordings that we might be doing, whether it's our normal design streaming session, podcast recording like this, or maybe just other video content that you might want us to put out there. So appreciate your presence here. Looking forward to seeing you next time. From me to you, have a great one. I'm out.